Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Spar. I am president of the Florida Education Association. Today we're here with the American Federation of Teachers to announce the AFT Innovation Fund award winners of this year. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the American Federation of Teachers Innovation Fund has allocated over $1.6 million throughout the country to ensure that kids and communities get what they need. Today, we are here to announce the new round of 14 grants totaling nearly $500,000, with 2 of those grant recipients being districts right here in Florida, Leon County as well as Pinellas County. Schools across this nation have been struggling to meet the needs of students during and since the pandemic. In some states, and particularly here in Florida, educators, students, and communities have also faced political headwinds, which has made their job even that much more difficult. With the support of unions and districts working together, we want to make sure that every child gets the education they deserve and need, regardless of race, background, zip code, gender identity, sexual orientation, or ability. The politics of division has no place in our public schools. Public schools are the place where we come together, where we work as a community to ensure that every child has a safe place to learn, to be themselves, and to be a kid. That's what public education has always been about, and that's what it must always be about. Regardless of the divisive politics that continue to infuse themselves in our schools, we, as educators in the state of Florida, working as teachers and staff, administrators and school boards, want to make sure that the focus remains squarely on our kids and their families. As we all know, for every child to learn, it truly does take the entire community. We cannot afford to lose any more educators in our state. Florida is facing the worst teacher and staff shortage we have ever seen. Just last month, as we surveyed districts all around the state, the number of vacancies currently in our schools for teachers exceeds 5,200. And the number of vacancies for our support staff is well over 4,600, meaning there are almost 10,000 vacancies in Florida's public schools today, robbing hundreds of thousands of students of the education they deserve and need. These grants are an effort to reverse the trend we are seeing in public education of teachers and staff fleeing from our public schools, shortchanging the education of our students. As communities, as educators, working with lawmakers, we can truly ensure that we have a world-class education system for every child. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce the superintendent of Leon County Schools, Mr. Rocky Hanna.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Andrew, I could not have said that better, and I can't thank you enough for your leadership, not only here in Tallahassee and Leon County, but throughout the state of Florida. And Randy, welcome to Florida, to the capital city. We are very excited that you're here, and I sincerely mean that. My name's Rocky Hanna. I have the honor of serving as superintendent of Leon County Schools. Born and raised in Tallahassee, a product of our public school system. My wife is a middle school science teacher of 28 years. I've been with our district now 35 years. I started as a classroom teacher in 1988. In 1997, as my wife said, I turned to the dark side and became a school administrator. Not because I didn't thoroughly love what I was doing in the classroom. It was just hard for the two of us to survive financially on $19,000 a year. I care deeply for this community. I care deeply for our state. But like Andrew, I'm deeply concerned about the future of our public school system, given the rhetoric we're hearing from many elected officials is very disappointing, to say the least. Years ago, when I was principal at Leon High School, my alma mater, we would have hiring fairs at the Leon County Civic Center, which is now the Tucker Center, and every school would have its own individual table set up, and they'd have the list of vacancies they would have for the coming fall. They would open the elephant doors to the Civic Center, and literally hundreds of young, eager applicants wanting to enter the education profession would come rushing through those doors to interview for those jobs. Today, we open those doors and there's no one there. Like Andrew said, unfortunately here, even in Leon County, with 2 major universities and a major junior college, we still have classrooms that are being covered by substitute teachers that do not have certified teachers. That is very disappointing, to say the least. We have to do everything we can humanly possible to recruit and to retain high-quality teachers. Our children deserve that. Our children absolutely deserve that. Public school and public education is, to me, the foundation to our great democracy. For some reason, though, we find our public school system under attack, which is not going to lead to more people wanting to enter the profession. But with this grant and working locally with Leon Classroom Teachers Association, we are going to come up with innovative ways to do just that, help recruit and retain teachers that we have in our system here locally. I've said many times before that no one knows or understands the challenges here in Tallahassee and Leon County better than me and our local teachers union. And it's us working hand in hand, side by side, to make decisions that have impact on our community and our profession here locally. Being stripped of those rights by the state legislature and those in the executive branch doesn't help the situation. It only makes it worse. So I would, again, encourage anyone who possibly can to reach out to the legislature that we need to maintain and continue local control. We're very thankful to have these dollars that will be put to good use so we can help reach out to universities in our community and across the country to recruit teachers. And then, just as important, once we have them, to retain them and to do the things that they need. They didn't enter this profession to have a house on Martha's Vineyard. They fully knew that they were not going to be on Forbes 500s list when they entered education. But they have mouths to feed, they have families to take care of, and we have to treat our teachers like the professionals that they are. So we're very appreciative to have this grant and work with LCTA to see how we can put it to the best of use here in Tallahassee and Leon County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. And it's great to have a superintendent who is truly leading in this state. Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to have Scott Mazer, who is the president of the Leon County Classroom Teachers Association. Scott?
First, I'd like to thank President Weingarten, Superintendent Hanna, President Spar, Secretary Treasurer Fedrick Ingram, for the opportunity to be here. We find ourselves very fortunate of being one of 14 locals that have been selected to address what we have as a shared issue in the state. We're honored to be recipients of the Innovation Grant, but what it really comes down to is the personal stories that we think of for our students. And we can start with those personal stories when we think about the educators that positively impacted our lives. Case in point, I think we can all think about the teacher that helped us and guided us to where we are. And the concern that we have as a shared concern is that we're losing those educators. We're losing individuals that don't even look at public education or being an educator, a professional educator, as an option at this point in time. So I think back to Jerry Shaver, who was my drama teacher at the time, and he helped me kind of empower myself, find the things in me that I didn't think that I'd see. And this past Friday, we just lost one of those teachers in Leon County as well. We lost Mrs. B. She was a teacher for our ESE students, our exceptional students. And she was an educator for 6 years in Leon County. She never saw herself not being in the classroom. But given the circumstances and the way that she kind of returned home, she said that there were many days where she felt joy, but more when she didn't feel like she was enough. And some of that rhetoric and some of the things that are being said out there are the cause of where we are right now. We need policies in place, and we need partnerships that make sure that every child receives the education that they deserve. If we do not do those things, then we find ourselves in a situation where we are having learning loss. And we understand the impacts of what that learning loss has on all children, okay? We don't want it for our own children. We shouldn't want it for anyone else in the public. And therefore, that's why this partnership is around recruiting and retaining the most highly qualified educators that we can. Part of that comes down to partnerships and the ability to have conversation, to share shared concerns, to meet those needs that we have in front of us. One of the things that I think that we need to make sure is that every time that we lose a teacher, we have a substitute in a classroom, an uncertified teacher, we have learning loss that takes place, we lose experience, we lose dedication, and we lose stability. We need to stabilize our public schools because our public schools are the foundation of our community. So with that, we're very thankful that we're partnering with Leon County Schools, Stetson University with Professor Colwell and his leadership group, as well as with LCTA and the American Federation of Teachers and Florida Education Association. We appreciate the opportunity, and we look forward to the work ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Again, another amazing leader here in Tallahassee. Next up, we're going to hear from the Secretary-Treasurer of the American Federation of Teachers, the former president of the Florida Education Association, good friend, Fedrick.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Is it afternoon?
It is afternoon. So I first want to start off by thanking Mr. Superintendent, Mr. President from Leon County. You guys are showing great courage, great spirit, great hope, and transforming that into great joy for our teachers and educators, our students, and our community. And so thank you all very much for what you do and what you will do, more importantly. I want to thank Andrew for leading our state, for guiding our teachers and our educational support professionals through times that are challenging, and there are many obstacles. But our folks are continuing to do the magic, to do the work in our classrooms that change lives every day. And I also want to thank Randi Weingarten, because for a long time, she has supported innovation in teaching, ensuring that our teachers and our students have the best of what they can get with what we can provide them. And we need help to do that. We need a legislature who will help to provide that. We also need governors who will help to provide that. And so, Randi, your spirit and your leadership with the AFT is continuing to transform education. So I want to thank you as well. Now, I have a fun section of this, and I'll be brief. It's people like Scott Mazer and Rocky Hanna from Leon County, along with Pinellas County, two of our Florida-based grantees. They are getting funds to expand their leadership training and share decision-making models in 3 schools to improve teaching and learning and engage teachers during their early careers, and that's where we need the help. The Pinellas County Classroom Teachers Association is partnering with AFT, Pinellas County Schools, local colleges of education and education preparation programs, community groups, families, and students. They're working to improve the conditions and address education workforce shortages. And that's just here in Florida. We have 12 other grantees across the nation, and I believe many of them are on the live stream today. So shouts out to you all, because you're doing the work. But let's start in New York with... That's right.
Oh, yay to all of them.
Yay to all of
Yay
you.
to New York. Even though I love New York.
That's right. But we will start with New York because we have 5 different grantees in New York. BOCES, educators of Eastern Suffolk, New York, will support students who attend their CTE academies with out-of-pocket expenses for materials and equipment. The Faculty Association at Jefferson Community College in New York will host a business and leadership symposium. The West Guineas Substitute Teachers Association in New York will offer professional learning for substitute educators in classroom management, social-emotional learning, special education, safety, and classroom technology. The Fort Edward Teachers Association in New York will strengthen CTE in its school district by upgrading its machine tooling capabilities. The Yonkers Federation of Teachers in New York will expand their Take a Look at Teaching and Grow Your Own program in their county. The Baltimore Teachers Union will identify a cohort of middle school students and help them explore career options and interests. The Buckeye Local Education Association in Ohio, Andrew, will expand its literacy program, the Confetti Project. Corey Rawson Education Association, also in Ohio, will establish a new partnership with the YMCA to offer and expand on-site early child care for families in need. The Education Minnesota in Minnesota will link their Aspiring Educators program with their early career program to strengthen education, careers, recruitment, and retention, and all of their efforts to do the same. The New Haven Federation of Teachers in Connecticut will create and expand opportunities for educators to collaborate and support new educators. The Newtown Federation of Teachers in Connecticut will help fund the Newtown High School Greenery Program. And last but not least, the Texas American Federation of Teachers will create and expand an educator apprenticeship and training program to directly address teaching shortages. This is nothing short of amazing, and the AFT is going to fund all of these projects around the country. These people are working to secure the future of education, and everyone should be following their leads, and that's why the AFT is supporting them. I want to thank you. It's good to be back in my home state, and I'll turn it over to the president of the Florida Education Association, Andrew.
Thank you, Fed. So as you see, these grants certainly work in the areas of ensuring that kids and communities are getting what they need. And the inspiration and the idea behind this grant is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, who many people see out there all the time fighting for what is right for our students, for the people who work in our schools, and for the education and the future of our country. And I want to say, before Randi comes up here, that many people see Randi is not afraid to go toe-to-toe with anyone to make sure that kids are the center of focus, that kids are the center of focus. And when you look at these grants and everything you heard Secretary Treasurer Ingram just mention, CTE programs, helping kids get resources so that they can decide what they want to do when they graduate from school, helping make sure that young teachers have support they need in our schools, making sure we have teachers and staff in our schools and growing our own programs. Those are all innovative ideas that happen because of the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary Treasurer. I'm really glad to be in Florida today. As Fed was going through the various different grants that we're giving out today, I was thinking about why we're in Florida today in terms of these grants. 2 weeks ago, we actually were in New York at a community schools event where we brought in about 20 different groups from superintendents and union presidents and community workers to really lift up a lot of community schools. And we try to do these different things in different regions in the country because local press is important. And lifting up local press and telling the stories locally is really important. So that's why we're in Florida today, because there's 2 of these 14 grants that come from Florida. Now, the 14 grants, we've given out 57 grants since COVID started. We did a different kind of grant making since COVID started, because we know for a long time that innovation really happens. And Rocky, you said this, and Scott, you said this. Innovation really happens when people feel free to talk to each other, when they feel free to raise ideas, and frankly, when they have a real interchange of trust around those ideas. That's how innovation happens. And in schools, innovation happens when kids feel free to ask any question they want to ask, when educators feel free to answer any question, when parents feel like the school is a welcoming and safe environment. In fact, I often say that every public school should be a place where parents want to send their kids, educators want to work, and kids thrive. And frankly, there's not those same rules for private schools. And in fact, what I just heard from USA today was that a Christian Florida school told parents last year that gay and transgender students had to leave. Public schools accept and welcome everyone. And that's why all of us believe in all of us here at the podium, we love public schools. We believe in public schools, but we know that public schools have to be strengthened, and we know our North Star is that every public school be a place where parents want to send their kids, educators want to work, and kids thrive. But we also know, and this is part of the reason I'm in Florida today, is that it doesn't go unnoticed around the country that, the governor here has engaged in a culture war. We've had cultural wars in the country and in the world before. The whole fight about whether we could teach evolution was a cultural war about 100 years ago. Frankly, there are cultural wars and revolutions in other countries as well. Look at what happened. Sorry, I'm a social studies teacher. There are cultural wars in other countries as well. Look at what happened in the Cultural Revolution in China. Cultural wars tend to try to get people to stop talking to each other, to debate, to be divisive with each other, to hate each other instead of bring people together over the ideas that create innovation, that create entrepreneurship, the kind of innovation that in Florida allowed Floridian teachers in Fort Lauderdale to help kids learn how to create drones. That happened in Florida. The kind of innovation that made the first place of the 60 places that taught AP, African American Studies, was in a Florida high school, a Miami-Dade high school that said, we'll pilot that course. The kind of innovation that has made Miami-Dade the culinary place in the world with the community college it attaches to. The kind of innovation, Rocky, that you were talking about in Leon County with the nexus between the public schools and the universities. The work, Fed, you talk about to me all the time about what FAMU does. The music that the two of you created as music teachers. That's what Florida has been known for. And I should know. I was the president of the Teachers Union in New York City, and a lot of people came to Florida from New York City and would tell me the stories of innovation and drive and excitement in the Florida schools, even when we didn't have the conditions that we needed. So the Innovation Fund here is about the simple concept of if we talk to each other, if teachers have ideas that they want to put into action, if they can work with their superintendents, if the union and the superintendent can work together, then we'll see those ideas flourish and help kids. And that's what these 14 grants are about. The Pinellas Grant, the Leon Grant, the Buckeye Grant. And these places, for those of you who don't know, they go from really rock red, ruby conservative, like the Buckeye, Ohio, to, liberal places like New York City. Because it doesn't matter what one's ideology is. It matters that we are actually helping kids thrive. That is why I am here today. Because I want to lift up the grants in Florida that even with all the mishigas that's going on, which is Yiddish for craziness, for those of you who don't know, even with all of the culture wars every single day, even with all of the kind of suppression of local autonomy and freedom, even with all of the government intrusion, even with all of that, what you see here in Tallahassee, in Leon County, is a union and a school district trying to figure out how to recruit and retain teachers. What you see in Pinellas are people working together to try to lift our kids. That's the contrast of today. That's who we are as a union. We want what kids need. And we know when we work together, we can problem solve, even in all of what's going on right now. And I would just say to the governor of this state, take a little lesson from the work that we're trying to do every single day in classrooms to help lift up students, to help see them, to help them find themselves, and to do the kind of great things that we know Floridians can do and Floridian students can do. Teachers want, and our union wants, what kids need, and that is what we are trying to do. Not ban books, not censor curriculum, not look away when the kid says, I have troubles, but bring families together, bring us together. That is the American dream. That is what America is about. Just like we brought Cuban immigrants into Florida years and years ago, just like my grandfather came from the Ukraine to here, to the United States. That's who we are as Americans, bringing people together, lifting people up, and teaching them in local public schools with local autonomy throughout the country. Thank you. Questions?